First-class air travel has often been a playground for the rich and famous. On a first-class flight from New York to Dubai on Emirates Airlines, wealthy passengers can sleep in private suites that feature floor-to-ceiling sliding doors, relax in the Airbus A380 shower spa, and drink limited-edition champagne while eating mounds of caviar. If you wanted to book that round-trip flight on Emirates at the last minute, it could cost you over $23,000. Flying to Mumbai from New York, Etihad Airways offers a 3-room luxury suite called The Residence, which features a private bathroom, a private living room, and a personal butler. Flying round trip on Etihad for that flight could be over $36,000. And for about $3,000 on an American Airlines flagship first flight from New York to Los Angeles, travelers have access to an exclusive check-in area and premium wines in the flagship lounge. While airlines make a significant amount of money packing people into coach like cattle, premium cabins like business and first class are still a major source of income for U.S. carriers.
The U.S. airlines are doing quite well, frankly. Their margins range from the mid-single digits to the mid-teens presently. Delta has been the leader for quite some time.
So why are first-class tickets so expensive? And who is paying for them? And with changes in technology and environmental issues at the forefront, will the first-class airplane ticket even be around in the next 20 years? The world's first passenger airline started service on January 1, 1914, between St. Petersburg and Tampa, Florida. It lasted only a few months and only flew in good weather, but set the stage for the future of passenger travel. Around that time, airplanes were flying mostly mail, and passenger service was virtually non-existent. With big improvements in aircraft performance and aviation technology in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, passenger service took root and started to expand.
Before the 1950s, everyone who flew first class because it was the same service for everybody on the airplane. The vast majority of people who flew were affluent, mostly male, mostly business people who are flying for business purposes.
But the end of World War II brought about a big change to the air travel industry.
What happens is after World War II, there are lots and lots of surplus airplanes out there. And there are a number of veterans in particular who wanted to continue to fly to make money from flying.
New carriers called non-scheduled airlines, similar to charter flights, began appearing, posing a direct threat to the existing airlines that were heavily regulated. Working together gave non-scheduled airlines the ability to offer lower prices on cross-country trips, pressuring existing carriers to drop their fees. To attract the tourist class, the existing airlines came up with a pricing structure of different costs for different seats.
Eventually, the airlines worked with the CAB to essentially undermine the non-skeds by creating a tiered passenger ticketing system where you would have first class and coach that would be closer to the prices that were offered by the non-skeds to attract the middle class folks.
By the end of the 50s, with improvements in technology, airplanes moved from the piston engine to jet engines. The bigger Boeing 707 allowed airlines to reconfigure their cabins, giving more amenities and space to first-class flyers. In January 1970, Pan Am flew the Boeing 747 for the first time on a flight from New York to London. The double-decker plane, known as the Queen of the Skies, featured a restaurant with luxury services for first-class passengers.
The introduction of the 747 really took first class to a whole other level. Very premium service with, yes, a lounge, a bartender. They called it a piano bar. It was actually an organ, but you had live music on these flights.
And deregulation in the 1970s may have had an even bigger impact on the airlines. In 1978, the Airline Deregulation Act removed some government controls, giving the airlines more say over the services they offer and the fees they could charge.
Well, business class comes about because of deregulation. The airlines now can compete any way they want to compete.
And with the rise in the business class, airlines look to offer even better services to attract high-paying, first-class customers. For example, in the mid-1990s, British Airways introduced fully reclining seats into their first-class cabins. American carriers later followed with their version of the flatbed seat.
American Airlines generally follow the lead of others. They will pioneer technology like the computerized reservation systems, but in terms of service and amenities, the United States generally follows the lead of what happens elsewhere in the world.
Then, in the 90s and 2000s, the airlines faced additional competition for first-class customers from private jet companies.
If you've got your own plane or your corporate plane, you don't have to go through the security hassle. The airlines and the airports then have to try and answer that with a better experience, not only in the airport but in the air for these folks to keep them flying commercial rather than shifting to private.
U.S. legacy carriers Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and American Airlines make a lot of their money at the front of the plane. Specifically, according to analysts, selling business class and first class tickets on long-haul, premium-heavy flights. In August 2019, more than 6.4 million people flew in premium seats on North American flights, about 9% of the total 67 million seats occupied. But why are some premium seats so expensive?
The airlines are getting much more sophisticated, and they're getting to the point where they can charge just the amount of money it needs to fill those seats. That's how they make their money. It's butts in seats.
The airlines use a strategy called airline revenue management to maximize profitability, essentially prioritizing passengers based on fares.
So airline revenue management, this is how airlines make their money. This is how they know whether to charge a business traveler a lot for a seat for a last-minute flight. Airlines use algorithms to try to find out the most that they can get out of passengers.
Business travelers, for example, tend to book their tickets at the last minute, giving airlines the ability to charge more.
They can make more money selling a last-minute ticket to a business person than they can for people who are booking for leisure travel. For people who are booking for leisure travel, they shop for those tickets. For the business traveler, though, especially the one who is flying at the last minute, they don't have that luxury. There's a seat, here's the price, they pay it.
But even though airlines can make a hefty profit on first-class travelers, not everyone pays the full price.
First class has changed a lot over the years, so airlines, including Delta, has actually said, we used to give away almost all of our first class seats. They were free upgrades to some of their most loyal customers.
It's been one of the big changes we've made in our marketing strategy over the last number of years. First class, we used to give first class away to just about everybody in our loyalty arrangements. But today we sell about 50% of our first class seats. Still give away about 50% in terms of loyalty upgrades, but about 50% is sold.
In 2018, premium class travelers made up only a handful of the total number of international origin destination passengers at 5.2%, according to the International Air Transport Association. But they accounted for a big chunk, nearly a third of airline revenue. Industry consolidation and a strong economy in recent years has allowed the airlines to invest in more fuel-efficient planes with better cabins, focusing on those premium classes. In 2008, Northwest Airlines merged with Delta Airlines. In 2010, Continental Airlines merged with United Airlines. And in 2013, U.S. Airways and American Airlines parent AMR merged.
Since the economy is pretty good, airlines are putting a lot of resources into improving those business class cabins. They're putting in these suites that have sliding doors, they're improving their food, and they really need to compete with the international carriers, which have had a pretty plush product to begin with.
In addition to a few other big markets, American has its flagship First program for first class and business travelers from New York to Los Angeles that offers quick passage through security, a first class lounge, and lie flat seats. The Delta One service is available on long-haul international flights and in select long-haul domestic markets. It offers a 180-degree flatbed seat with a full-height door, and United offers their premium transcontinental service that has a fully flat bed with more than 6 feet of sleeping space and a 15-inch monitor. Those cabins are the face of the airline. Even though most passengers can't afford them, the expensive first-class suites entice travelers to rack up loyalty points for a chance to fly up front. And those premium services have been good for the bottom line of U.S. legacy carriers.
Airlines in the U.S. at least are headed to their 10th year of profitability. It's the longest stretch that we know on record.
For its quarter ended June 2019, Delta announced operating revenue of $12.5 billion, $1 billion higher than the previous year. According to the company, the revenue hike included a 10% increase in premium product ticket revenue. And in the quarter ended September 2019, Delta had revenue from their main cabin of $6 billion and an additional $4 billion from their business cabin in premium products. American and United did not report the amount they make from their various cabins. CNBC reached out to both airlines to request this revenue breakdown, but they declined to share this data with us. On a plane, every square inch is valuable real estate, and first-class seats take up a lot of space. With improvements to business class in recent years, there's been a shift by some airlines away from first-class cabins. Traditionally, the first-class cabin has been the home of the 180-degree flatbed seat, while business class passengers had to contend with adjustable head and footrests. But in January 2000, British Airways announced they would offer a full flatbed business class on their London to New York route.
First class has now internationally become this sort of hybrid of first and business class, and airlines United, Delta, American have kind of collapsed the two.
And low-cost carrier JetBlue is also trying to grab a slice of the business class market. In April 2019, JetBlue said it intends to start multiple daily flights from New York to London, flying the long-range version of the Airbus A321, which will include its premier service called Mint. That's JetBlue's version of business class, except it tends to be much cheaper than the competition.
The price of business class seats has come down, and that's partly because of airlines like JetBlue that have a cheaper product out there.
And then there's business class's little brother, premium economy.
There's actually a new class of service, at least new to the American carriers, that's called premium economy. It's sort of like a business class junior, and that's for people who can't afford maybe business class and the lie flat seat.
According to Skyscanner, a premium economy ticket is about 65% less than the price of a business class ticket. Changes in technology and environmental concerns also pose a challenge to first-class travel. Today, private jets fly faster and longer distances than ever before. Instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars on first-class commercial tickets, companies now have the option to charter a private jet or use fractional ownership where several unrelated parties share in the purchase of an airplane. Several companies sell part ownership of private business jets, including NetJets, owned by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway.
There is that 1%, that segment of the market, for whom the private jet is just the ultimate convenience. You can fly when you want. It is essentially all first-class service.
Changing technology could also impact the decision on whether companies decide to purchase a pricey first-class ticket in the first place. Why fly thousands of miles to distant places when Skype, Zoom, or virtual reality will do? And for companies trying to burnish their green credentials, flying first class might be bad publicity and bad for business.
Airlines are deeply challenged by climate change. They are the big emitters. The automobile market is moving to electric cars. There is no electric airplane out there.
According to the Air Transport Action Group, about 2% of human-induced carbon dioxide emissions worldwide come from air travel. And people who fly first class have a bigger carbon footprint than the average passenger, as much as 7 times as large, according to the World Bank. But even though airlines are decreasing the amount of space they are allocating for first-class travelers, carriers including Delta, United, and American, for the time being, have found big profits in premium cabin services.